It's back. We're done with the holidays, Joe.
Yeah, we're done with the holidays.
We're back to a regular, normal color.
Yeah. We love the pinks here on LGC.
Hey, what's going on? It is Wednesday. It's that time. Oh, the snowman's gone. Until next year. He's going to show up the 1st of November, though. He's like holiday music in a retail store. But until then, enjoy the classic, traditional, as it should be. Snow, a flaming. in our universe, it's flaming pink snow. If it touches you, it just eviscerates you just right on the spot. Hey, everyone, what's going on? I got to do social media.
Pink magic.
And by I got to do.
Yeah. I did mine already.
And by that, I mean I'm going to steal Jill's and retweet it. Retweet. There we go. It is done. Boom. There we go. Live in the pre-shows in 2022.
Hey, Massavoni.
We're inside you.
Thank you for the resub.
So.
Oh, nice out there, and it feels like spring. Oh, good. It's nice weather. Yeah, it's really nice here, too. Yeah, Ven, what is it like at your place? Is it cold or warm? Because I know it shifts.
It's winter right now. That could change by the end of the show. Check this out.
Oh.
Yeah, it's doing that thing. Let's talk about the weather because, hey, we're in January, right? We're in January.
Yeah.
Should be a little bit winter. 3 days ago, it was 21 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Warm. Like I had the windows open, just like
in the 70s. Yeah.
And the day after that, we had a high of 7. So it's not that 7 is necessarily cold, but compared to 20, it is frigid. So I felt like the old man around the house, like, and I had the heat on. I've kind of acclimated to it. So.
Okay.
That is the thing.
Yeah, it's been cooler than average here, but we had our winter storms. Oh, it rained for 5 days. That was huge. But it's really great because we needed it because of the drought. So.
Oh man, in California, it could probably rain for 5 weeks.
Yeah. And still not have enough to say we're not in a drought. So it was good. The only thing I didn't like was we were down in San Diego and on Christmas Day, and then a couple days later we came back home and we hit a really bad downpour on the freeway, and it was so bad that you could only see like 5 foot in front of you. We had to go.
You do not have any experience dealing with that either, right? I mean,
no,
outside
we
of
don't.
Randomly, maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah. Fortunately, Steven, because we've done enough traveling in other states, he's pretty good with it. But so we just stayed in the lane and saw the taillights of the cars in front of us, and just slowly in a conga line, we were all just kind of slowly following each other because we couldn't get over to the right to get off. I thought about, maybe we should get off the freeway. And I looked to my right and it was all flooded. So we had to stay in that lane. And that was for like 45 minutes we were dealing with that. And that was a bit scary.
That sounds
everyone
terrifying.
was driving well. Yeah, everyone was driving well. And I could hear like cars next to us skidding a bit. And I'm like, oh shit, they're excuse me. Oh shoot, they're hydroplaning. So I don't want to be any part of that. So we stayed like at 10 miles an hour for a while.
Doesn't sound too bad. So everyone, check this out. Who watched CES yesterday? I know Jill did. I know I did.
Yes.
I got up. And before we get into the show, I want to talk about the biggest announcement out of all of CES. The most powerful thing, the one thing everyone should pay attention to and be excited about. And of course, I'm talking about the world's first modular gaming desk. From the fine folks at Razors, so you know this thing blinks.
Yeah.
Let's have a look and see what we have.
And they recently partnered up with IKEA. It was either Razer. Yeah, I think it It was either Razer or Asus, and they have a modular one now too. They're selling at
This
IKEA.
thing's got LCDs built into it. You can put in their touch panels.
That
put
is
the PC
cool, actually.
inside of it. Put the video card right up front. Oh, you can attach webcams and stuff to it and mic arms. See, I want to know how big that monitor is because this is that.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That was my favorite part of it, actually, because we like our big monitors, huh, Ben? So if that's 43-inch, that'd make me happy.
So I want to know how much something like that costs.
Yeah.
That's the real gaming desk.
$5,000? I guess we'll take a guess.
Possibly. They're definitely going to see what they can get away selling it for because then you're going to deal with like putting something like that together. That's where I'm kind of interested in. Like, how do you nerf setup on something like that to where the end user can put it together? Like, because building a PC inside of a desk is not an easy task.
Yeah, not an easy task. Yeah.
The IKEA
I'm
thing.
trying to think
IKEA's got their own gaming section now, so that's kind of interesting. Which IKEA, to their credit, I posted on Twitter earlier this week. They have like mocked up PS5s.
Oh yes, they do.
In the IKEA, so you can see whether or not your meme-sized console, which is what it says on the side of it. It's like so you can tell if your meme-sized console will fit into the furniture.
Yes, they do. That's actually kind of the best place to see those fake computer and console props is at IKEA.
I have nothing against IKEA whatsoever. I've been in an IKEA once. Once, and that cost me $20 because I went there with a friend of mine because she said that there was a restaurant inside of IKEA, and I said, no way.
Yeah.
Not happening. And we went to the IKEA. There was a restaurant. She got $20.
Nice. They have good Swedish meatballs. Arthur, and here's my mug today. Penguins. I haven't used this one in a long time. It's probably been a few years.
You need to get a Windows mug, man. We need to get your Windows 95 mug.
I've got a blue screen of death mug.
I mean, if I squint, we can roll with a shirt.
Yeah.
That's blue screenery.
It's kind of funny because it's actually maybe if I have a little more sunlight in here, but it's actually a very deep purple. It's a purple with a lot of blue in it, so it comes across as blue.
Hey man, I got a hue slider. I can make it in color I need. It'll be blue when I get done with it.
Oh, Arthur, I do. I have a BSD demon mug, an old one from the 80s. No, 90s. Sorry, 90s. I haven't used it yet, actually. Thank you for reminding me. I gotta get that one out. And hello, Naysayist. Welcome.
What are we talking about today? We're going to talk about the Intel Arc stuff. I got some words to say about that. And I'm also going to tell you all about Linux on Windows, and it's time to change. Dolphin's got a feature. Arthur and drop that in the show notes. Then Portmaster, which is a Linux firewall for the desktop that I would actually genuinely recommend for somebody.
It's wonderful.
We'll get
I was real impressed.
Then we're going to light some windows on fire. Then we're going to do some retro browsing, followed by musical CPUs and a little bit of VR power.
Yeah. That's an interesting project.
That's
musical CPU.
I just wanted to give that a mention. I love crazy stuff like that because you remember back in 20.
I know, it's cool.
Way back when people were building like 1-bit CPUs inside of Minecraft.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And again, my only experience with Minecraft was I drew a particular shape in the ground, climbed up on a mountain, took a look at it, took a screenshot, and that was it. I was in and out. But you know what? It's not using UFW. Because I installed it, if you're listening, can't remember your username, but I installed it the correct way with apt because it's a Debian package. And I I'm going to usually install stuff with the dpackage because of me, but I was curious to see what type of dependencies this thing required, and I did the apt install with it, and it was some other thing that I wasn't immediately familiar with or hadn't used, but I mean, it was there as a daemon service, so it's like, all right, that's the thing. Tried it out. We'll talk about it during the show, but yeah, just go check it out. There'll be links in the show notes, among other things. I'm kind of buying a little bit of time because I did check, and the music audio thing is headed to my house today for this month's Interfacing Linux. Near AMD's monstrous
Very
epic.
nice.
Should know a CPU. What about it? 96 Zen 4 cores, 400 watts. Oh, I better get over to live. Hang on. Boop. Bye, Foxy.
Oh, yeah. Aw. Fox Dog will follow us over there.
That's how you know people are paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, Oil of Hope. So your wife has been working for IKEA for almost 20 years. Wow. you refuse to go. I actually love IKEA. But I love it for different reasons than other people do.
Look at that microphone like slid over a little bit or readjusted. It's coming on to the side of it.
Oh, okay. What did I... Actually, I need to go take a break real quick and I'll come back and reposition.
I don't know, man. We're going to get you one of those chairs with wheels so you can just be like...
There we go. Okay.
All right.
Right back.
Yeah, I had to check that. I want to thank everybody that showed up last night for practice. We had a couple people. We had more people showing up and attempting. I think Barbara. It's like, man, I want to play, but one thing broke on my Linux install, so I need to torch it. Nuke it from orbit. I don't know, man. This is one of the things with Linux. Learning Linux. At some point, it's a lot easier to do nowadays. It is to... If something's wrong within OS installations, just wipe it and rebuild it. 30 years ago, this was a different beast because you didn't really have a place to store stuff and getting things set up. You were dial up to download everything. So absolute last resort. Backup, you didn't have backup. You had a drive. Nuking something from orbit and starting over was not something you did. You avoided it. You learned how to fix each and everything. So I think nowadays, in 2021, in this moon future we're living in these wacky times, I think that bit gets flipped when you get tired of doing reinstalling. Then you start looking into what your problems are. You start Googling, and you learn how to get your... Even Windows installations, I'm sure at some point you can Google a thing, get it fixed instead of just formatting and then again, that might be the easiest way to fix Windows. I'm speaking from ignorance on that. But on Linux, it's good to know how to fix your system. It is a massive time saver. And everyone gets to that point. It's like, hey, all right, then you learn that bit and then you just keep going down that line until you're good to go. Sometimes it's practical. I say this as a raging hypocrite. Down here, there's 3 boxes that are running the show, and all of these are imaged. If anything ever gets weird with one of these boxes, I blow it away and just set the image back up. But these are toasters. They only do one thing each. Nuking and reinstalling means you don't... Exactly. But... there's nothing wrong with that. If you just want a working system, at some point, that time benefit reward thing gets out of whack. And you're like, I just need to learn how to fix this little thing. Then you start working back to what did I do to cause this? This is just natural progression. And it has nothing to do with Linux. It's just, you can apply that throughout your life. How you tackle a problem. Figure out what the core root of the issue is and work your way back up from there to you. Run away screeching. You buy 2 MacBooks. I really do want one of the Mac Minis, though. I do. What I really want Intel is some information on when you're going to be releasing Arc discrete GPUs that you didn't provide for all of us who are only watching CES for that yesterday. Not bitter. I'm absolutely bitter, by the way. That made me a little bit sad. But I want to know that information because different position at work. Yeah. I mean, just showing the initiative. Just showing the initiative. You know, like, be curious. Don't always default for the simplest solution. There we go. That is put together, and I think we're about dialed in, getting ready for a show. We'll get Jill back. I'm going to get something to drink when she pops back in. And I'm going to show you a couple things. I'm kind of waiting to see if my Guitar Center order will show up before the show starts. Because I want to make sure it's the right thing. I got a great deal on it, but it's a modern thing. So if you're into the audio stuff, stay tuned. I'll have that up on Patreon maybe by the end of this week. So I can get that done and out of the way. Then I'm going to sit back, relax, and wait for however many days until God of War comes out. Because I am going to burn a heretic purchase on that without blinking, and I hope it works day one with Proton. I really do. I'll probably be streaming some God of War. I've never played it. I've watched a little bit of it. And that is 100% the type of game that I enjoy. It's like Horizon Zero Dawn. I knew I was going to like a game like that. Uncharted 4. I've never played Uncharted. That's not a humble brag. I've just never been in a situation to play Uncharted. Is Uncharted on PC? This is a genuine question. I don't know if it is. Like, up until a couple of months ago, I never played any of the, I think it's Far Cry. Those are enjoyable little games. It will be on PC this year. The samurai game I'm also interested in. That was real big on the PlayStation. Sekiro? Does that sound right? I don't know. It's what modern Tomb Raiders ripped off most of the controls. Ghost of Tsushima. All right. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima. Those action RPG, open world-ish. I can deal with, like, sandbox environment, however you want to roll it. And give me a decent story to play along with and the option to skip through the boring parts. We're good. I'll put 20 to 30 hours into your creation. I'm still waiting. Apparently, I'm the only person on the planet that cannot get RTX working with Horizon Zero Dawn in Proton. Just FSR works fine. It's FSR. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I keep checking after every Proton update. But what is that of that of? I don't know. Hey, I'm going to get something to drink, so we're going to get underway.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know.
Gamatron? Hello, Gamatron. Adjusting headphones, adjusting everything. Aww. Ghost of Sashimi? Unfinished Swan is now on PC. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Ghost of Shima. Will be on PC. Yeah, Don M. Aw. Oh, Don M, thank you for retweeting my toots and
and all of that. That's awesome on the social medias. I noticed. I've been noticing. You are awesome. Steve Husband, yay, you're here. Has work been hectic, honey, since you got there? Yeah, Uncle Steve Husband. Yeah, so Steven had fun at work on Monday because no one was there. he had to go. He went back early and did some work and whatnot before everyone else came back. He had the whole place to himself. Aw. I'm back into habit of checking. Aw. Yeah, thank you again, Don M. That's so awesome. And it makes a real difference, too. It helps spread the show and get us out there. And Mastodon is really growing. So it's boy, I've been starting to get more and more followers on Mastodon. And I'm very happy about that because I love Mastodon. Yeah, and you see, that's Steve Husband's, that's the birthday gift he gave his brother. Birthday gift? Christmas gift, sorry. He gave his brother. Actually, he had been working on it for his birthday, but he got it done for Christmas. Huh, boo. Isn't it cute?
When are we... Steve's still showing off his...
Yeah, that was an awesome gift he gave his brother. His brother actually cried when he got that present.
It's not that bad, Jill.
I don't know.
I mean, I know his brother wanted a PS5, but I mean, he should be a little more thankful that Steve spent all the time.
Aw. Yeah, I was thanking Don M for retweeting all our toots on Mastodon. He's been really helpful with that and helping us get the show out there.
We need to slide the mic over or the Jill over. One other.
Okay. I keep...
All right.
thought I was lined up, and then I wasn't. Sorry about that.
Honestly, it doesn't bother me. I just know it's going to drive somebody crazy because when you're slightly off mic, it throws the EQ completely out of whack.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to do that, so...
I mean, if I wanted to be malicious, I could throw the EQ out of whack no matter what, but...
Yeah.
What would be the fun of that? Oh, man. Yeah, it's weird. People follow you, Steve. Does Steve have social media?
No, except Discord. You're the social media.
We're going to have to make Steve a Twitter account.
Yeah. Actually, that would be kind of cool, honey.
Either that or we'll set up Steve an Etsy store. Go Monsters.
That would be... Yeah.
Toy making YouTuber. Steve, I mean, there's a perfect opportunity for you to at least document your knowledge and what you know and make it available for the upcoming generations. Not that I'm trying to guilt trip you into doing this or anything, but I'm absolutely... But hey, man, if you want everything that you've learned in your life experiences to die with you, go for it, buddy.
Oh, Ben. Actually, he has a group of model builders that he has joined and watches their YouTube streams every week. And he does want to get more involved with them, but with him, it's a matter of time because he's working so often. but someday he will, and I'll set him up with a nice mic and camera and all the things.
30 years from now, you'd be saying that too.
Yeah. We had actually started the process during the pandemic when he was sent home on furlough. And
see, this is someone I know.
Steve's
Steve's not terribly interested in this idea, or Steve would have figured out how to do it himself.
Yeah. Aw.
This is just reality. I mean, life finds a way, and if you really want to do something, you start something. This started with a Logitech headset.
Yeah.
And me going, nobody's doing this? Why not? This information needs to be fine. I'll do it myself.
There you go.
I like watching
Steve has in true time zones.
creators, and that's always interesting to see, especially on Twitch. I catch Evil Ted when he's doing things, and a couple other modelers.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody I like watching, which is completely I'm not terribly interested in it, but I'm interested in the tech behind it, is a Twitch streamer, Fierce Kitten.
Oh, yeah. I know that one. Yeah.
She does a lot of embroidery tech and stuff like that. And she was like, well, this one got my attention because Twitch was recommending. I'm like, what? Sewing? All right, let's see. And she had a very elaborate setup on a Juki and doing that. I'm like, I know what a Juki is. And she's like, it didn't do this thing. Go to my GitHub repo. I've hacked this thing. I can make it do this. I'm like, all right, you go. Do your thing. I'll watch. Sunk Synergy.
Very cool. Yeah, I know of her because of my cousin Lisa, who crochets and does all that. So she found her.
Oh, that's neat. I mean, I'm fascinated. Like, you will never catch me with I can put a button on a shirt. That's the extent of my embroidery knowledge, but I'm still fascinated by stuff like that. Like,
yeah, me too.
That's really neat. And you have to understand, the dedication and time sink, because she works as game development, and to have a multicam setup increases the difficulty of doing the most simple task by a factor of 1,000. I don't know if I've tried, chain knitting. All right, the knitting, crocheting. Crocheting I've messed around with.
Yeah.
I've done that because I had a friend that did the crocheting, and I badgered her into the point of show me how to do this. And I made a string thing. I'm like,
Aw.
I am now an expert in crochet. I can teach it. And knitting I've not done. Knitting has the needles. I had to think. That's why I was doing this. I was like, that's that one where you flip it and turn it. No.
Yeah.
So.
I had actually learned how to do a lot of that with my family, and I honestly took a class in junior high and learned knitting and sewing and all that. And I'm like you, Vin. I really only remember how to put a button on, but at least I can do that. But I was more interested in painting and drawing and those kind of things. So I never got so much into the knitting, but I understand it and appreciate it and love it when people make me things.
I put a button on, worse, maybe I can do some field stitching on top of that. That's it.
Yeah.
So, dishcloths. Man, I've gotten so slack with dishcloths and stuff like that because I found I could just buy a stack of 35 for $5. So they become disposable. All right. Let's do a show, Joe.
Okay.
It is 3:30, so that's lined up. That's lined up. That's good. And I'm just going to trust that the credits are...
Oh, okay.
And let's get that in. That's good. All right. Yes. Needlepoint's neat. The embroidery thing's real neat, but I Like doing it by hand? No. Like with a multi-threaded systems to do the multiple colors and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. I like watching that from a distance because I look at that from an engineering perspective. I'm like, that's a lot of stuff to go wrong.
Yeah.
And like applied stuff like that. When it goes wrong, it breaks things. The whole time it's going wrong. So, okay. We are recording.
Okay.
That's good. The second I hit record, somebody who's flying below their ceiling in their jet, I can hear you. It's going over the house. Might as well wait.
I could hear it just a little bit.
I will, I don't want to be that guy. If I can read your tail numbers visually, I will report you. All right. And we hit stop. Cool, Jill. Let's do a thing.
Okay. Yay.
In 3. Hey, welcome back to Linux Weekly, daily Wednesdays where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source and basically anything we find interesting. I'm Vin, and that is hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? Hello, hello, hello.
Aw, I am doing very well. And I just want to thank Jordan for filling in for me last week while I was on holiday. That was very nice, Jordan. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
I'm short, angered, and confused people. Like, what is this?
Aw.
Who is this?
Well, he kept you company, which I was happy about. And happy New Year to everyone.
That's
wow,
a thing
yeah.
that
So
happened.
this is the first. Yeah, it did. This is the first LWW of the new year. Wow.
I don't know, man.
We've come a long way, Vin.
It's 2022, but we're still in that haze of everything. We're just like, yeah, the odometer ticked over a bit, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, wait, it's the weekend? Yeah, okay.
I know,
it's not
it's
weekend
still...
now? Yeah.
It takes about a month to sink in because until you write your first check, then you realize that it'll be 2021.
Somebody writes a check.
Only once in a while, but sometimes you have to.
In my world, I have to remember to put the right date in the MP3 ID 3 tags.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing.
That's really the only time I'm typing out a number. But I was playing around after the show. You might keep track of some of the stuff I picked up. I did a video on a piece of 80s technology that I was just completely fascinated with from a company called Aphex. They really like higher end studio stuff, not audiophile things. And they made a thing called a compeller. And it's still made today. And it's fascinating to me, and it was, because it's genuinely an analog computer inside of the box that does equalization, not EQ, compression, leveling, and what am I trying to think about? Compression, leveling, and limiting. But it does it automatically. It reads the signal, and the way it works is very fascinating. And it is completely transparent, which is also fun. There's much legend and reality to back it up of studios that bought them, because you had compression, like, it's not doing anything, and they were calling up saying it's broken. I'm like, no, it's that transparent. You'd have to put it on meters to see that it was bringing the overall volume up for everything very clearly. These are typically used in post-production movies, film, TV, cable companies, satellite, stuff like that. But I happen to have one because, Jeff at Guitar Center. His name's not really Jeff. That's just the guy from all the stores that are linked, because Jeff is a curse and a blessing. Sometimes Jeff will radically overprice something he doesn't know what it is, and other times it'll be criminally underpriced because Jeff doesn't know what it is. This is one of those cases. I'm just going to buy one of those to play with it. Me being me. If I have something long enough, I'm going to find a use for it, no matter what. So last week after the show, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try this out. So what I did is I wired the compeller into the studio DAW to master the show. Because when we're recording at a much lower level, so I have a lot of wiggle room to adjust things in post-production. So I'm feeding this out to the analog compiler, and you can see it there with the dynamic verification gate. It's reading, it's matching. That's a multi-segmented LED. It's displaying everything that it's doing to get the level up to, and it ended up to 14 LUFS is roughly where I got it. The only downside is you got to do it in real time. And there's no like hard settings on it because it's analog gear. You know, I'm back here like twiddling dials. So earlier this week, I continued playing around with this chain, just to add something to do when I had some free time. And I've figured out a dial-a-LUF system using a meter and the way I have it configured in with the RME card in the box. So if you're unfamiliar with LUFs, if you're doing a podcast and you don't know what LUFs are, stop doing a podcast until you get read up on that and you figure out where you need to be. Or even if you're doing YouTube videos, YouTube wants 14 LUFs. That's the overall loudness for a show. So you're not blowing anyone's ears out and they can hear you depending on the program material. And it was very successful. I'm going to be using it after this show where I can turn dials and like, okay, I want 14 LUFs for YouTube. I want, depending on mono or stereo, I want 16 LUFs or 19 LUFs for a podcast and have it print that, run it through that, and everything sounds great. And it does a better job of what I typically do because there's a couple of ways to do it. We get done. This is a 2-person show. So I got Jill's audio. I got my audio. And sometimes, I might get a little off mic like that, or Jill might get really loud. But you want that normalized. You don't want it clipping anything like that. So you can ride the faders and do that. And post-production, just automate it. Or I use a script called, I think it's just called Level Voice. It's a little script for Audacity. It's an IQA script. I modified it a little bit because it's really set for like really aggressive, if you've recorded something where somebody's really loud and another person's really quiet. To fix that, I've toned it down a little bit. It does compression and leveling. It doesn't sound, you guys are going to love this. It doesn't sound organic. It doesn't sound warm. It sounds very digital, which is very irritating to me because of all the trouble I go through. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, Jill. Also, we got a new interface for interfacing Linux. It's a USB interface. It was something made in the last 2 years. Shock among shocks, right? It's not Firewire. And I get a great deal on that. Trackmania tracks are up for this week. I want to thank each and every person, even the people who showed up and tried in spirit but couldn't get things working. For Trackmania, we did the practice last night, which is the server is officially up for Tuesday. So you have until yesterday, up until Friday, where we're going to test our skills. We're all beginners. We're all still getting around tracks. And Nubin was making incredible progress. That's what I love seeing most because we have people who are coming in. They're like, man, I'm just trying to get around the track. But you see, while we're going around track, Nubin was getting like 33-second improvements in time. I mean, just seeing that progress. I watched Strider do it Sunday because I was like, hey, Strider, why aren't you playing this? Strider's like, I will play, watch. And he got in. I just spectated Strider going around. He got some great times. We're all beginners at this easily accessible game. It is Hot Wheels where you bounce around. I think Beastwick joined in last night. He just bought the game. He was watching us play when we were live streaming. Hopped right in. He's like, this is like Rocket League, but with racing, which it is. It's incredibly cheap, but we'll be doing a points match this Friday at 7:30. Everybody's welcome to join in. If you want, the top 3 places will each receive a free game that will be completely random because I'm cleaning out these 17 pages of unredeemed keys from my Humble bundle. So there's a little bit of incentive. What we're not looking for if you are competent, at best, I used to be reasonably good 15 years ago, driving around Trackmania tracks. And then, after 13 years off, I'm just trying to learn. If you're a pro at this, you don't want to show up and make fun of clowns is what I'm saying. Like if you're doing like massive laughs, this is not going to be, we're learning how to do this. And we welcome you to pop in at least and say hello. So we'll be live doing that at 7:30 if you want to do that. And
it was fun watching you and Foxy and Alan and Nubbin, racing each other. That was cool.
Right? Who's got the best car? This is a trick question because I got the best car.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Well, it's the one we mainly see when you're playing for the live stream. Best car. Yeah.
No one can compete with my Hello Kitty car.
Yeah.
It's the number
And
6
it looks
skating.
like
I call it skating.
Arthurian said he's going to pop in on Friday, so that'll be coll.
He just wants.
I'm actually going to. Oh, I'm actually going to be at Disneyland that day.
Right on. Arthurian. I went through and set up the server and the tracking for this because I noticed Arthurian's got records on a couple of tracks that I don't think any of us were able to beat yet.
Oh, I bet. He's good.
Strider has hit some records. So, yeah, Michael.
Yeah,
joined,
Matthew has been playing a lot.
Alan joined. Barbara was attempting, joined, but he could get something set up. And, Alan did really well. I didn't win a lot, but we're just there to have fun. So, yeah, we'll see you Friday on that. Good. That was a long intro, Jill.
Yeah, it was. And we have a big news story starting us off, too.
Maybe, because, okay. Let me just say it like this. I said this in the, before we started recording. I was watching CES for the Intel announcement because I wanted to know about the ARC. I wanted the dates. I wanted the numbers. Jill, we got dates and numbers, technically, but
yeah,
it was dates and numbers for laptop parts that
yes.
I don't think I'm alone. I don't think I'm alone on behalf of literally everyone. Where's the information on the desktop GPUs?
Yeah, we need more of that. Like I was telling you earlier, I think a lot of this has to do with the, it's the hardware shortage, their issue with that, and they're selling mostly to OEMs. So buying pre-built systems, and in this case, buying laptops is the quickest route to getting these parts. Just seems to be a thing.
I don't know, man. I'm looking at a lot of this stuff, and yeah, a bunch of laptop stuff. If that's your thing, HyperEncode looks neat because the announcement leaked the day before, and at the very bottom of the announcement, it's going to be optimized for DaVinci Resolve. That's really got my attention.
Yay!
It really did. And there was in the announcement they mentioned like Death Stranding. Norman Reedus and the Creepy Fetus is going to get, what do they call it? The ZSS, which is their version of Fidelity FX, aka DLSS. Yes. Yay. The Deep Link HyperEncode working with Resolve. That's kind of interesting, Jill, because it's going to work with the CPU and GPU. I mean, it's going to work with your Intel CPU and only your Intel GPU.
Yeah, so that was like actually my favorite takeaway was the Deep Link HyperEncode, because it's really awesome to be able to combine your discrete and onboard GPUs, rendering together for a faster rendering of a video stream, whether it be in DaVinci Resolve or in the future in Blender. That was a big deal in this announcement. Probably one of the best things.
Laptops.
Yes, that's true. But it'll come to our home PCs.
Your Intel home PCs.
It's just going to take time. This is true. This is very true. Yeah, we probably won't get an Intel discrete GPU mixing with an AMD APU anytime
not
soon.
Even a little bit.
So.
Okay, now here's something that I thought was really fascinating. It wasn't the announcement I was looking for, but there were clearly some things that were planned to be announced at CES that were not. And I say this because I was watching the PC World coverage. They do the thing we do where, we just live stream the event and we talk over the important bits. And when they got done, they did the wrap up and they were, just having a whole thing. And Gordon was asked a question by one of the other members, and he's like, "Oh, hang on, let me go through this announcement because there's some things that we can't talk about." Like that didn't end up getting announced. He didn't want to violate any NDAs or anything. So I'm like, what's going on there? But creators and gamers, we're in desperate need of GPUs. Intel, you should know this. Everyone should know this. In 2022, you got to think about it, man. Like Teenage Vin should be able to go out and get a used 2060 from a couple of years ago for like $150, $200 in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was absolutely how the system worked up until 3 years ago. I had a look. A 2060 right now, a used 2060 on eBay, not a super 2060 sold. We're not talking about asking what they sell for. $500.
Yeah.
All day
And my
long.
1080 Ti is over 500 too.
And I
That's the
know
thing.
everyone's going to bring up AMD. AMD makes a great desktop and gaming card. They do. But when you get into professional stuff, when you get into like Blender,
Yeah.
Resolve, like Blender just, like, we're working on, I think it's called Cycles, that'll bring back support for the AMD side of things. But like Resolve, you have to install the binary AMD drivers, which are just a nightmare to deal with anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, we need this Player 3 Intel. We need it. And that's what I'm waiting on, because I'm sitting back like, I have no problems getting off Team Green. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I was talking to you before we went live. It's like, I would like to be able to stick together a budget for 2022 if that's going to involve me having to buy something to replace NVIDIA encode, be it an external encoder. But I need to understand like what type of price in the ballpark. You know, NVIDIA during CES just laughed at everyone. They're like, we have a even more expensive card that you can't buy than, they said something about, what was it, a 2050?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a 2050. Yeah, that was their their big announcement.
$240 20. Again, this is just I think everyone just laughs when we see announcements for new GPUs because you can't get it. Doesn't matter. Why release the 6090? Might as well, because it doesn't exist. So
yeah,
save us. Then
yeah.
Oh yes, hang on. I did catch the Nvidia announcement because I was cringing every time they called it the like 90 whatever 3090 Ti. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, yeah.
I know. Every time I heard Ti, I'm like, no, I've been hearing it for years as Ti. That bothered me.
Nvidia,
But-
no, I don't care how hard you try to push this. No one's calling it Ti. It's the Ti.
No, it's not a TIE fighter.
You see, this is the missed opportunity from Intel, because then Intel thing, and I was like, Intel, how come you didn't on your feet jump on this? And like, here's the new Intel TIE fighter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh,
And
come on.
yeah, the other cool thing about having another, GPU, another competitor, until we want that GPU, is that it'll be on Linux, the true open source video card. So GPU
Yeah, the driver's
running
side, yeah.
open source. Yeah, because Intel is so good with open sourcing all their software for their hardware. So for us Linux users, so that's going to be cool. It'll be even more open source than the AMD drivers are on Linux.
So let's talk about the root file system in Dolphin, because I know that Linus kid had a problem with that, didn't he?
Oh, yes. So absolutely, Ben. So this has been one of the most requested features for KDE. Root file operations are finally coming to the Dolphin file manager, and we all rejoice. So it's been almost 5 years in the making, and PolicyKit support in KIO, or the KDE Input-Output Library, was finally merged. So this allows Dolphin and other KDE apps that use the KIO library to create, move, copy, trash, and delete files in non-user-owned locations. And this is just awesome, because that's been one of my biggest complaints about Dolphin. And there's been workarounds to run it in root, but kind of a pain. So it's nice that we're getting this default now native. And the support will arrive in Frameworks 5.91 in a little over a month. So, and you can test it out in KDE Neon Unstable or OpenSUSE Krypton or your favorite distro's unstable KDE packages. And you can file bugs on the Frameworks KIO if things don't work right, and they really would love to hear from you. So I want to make sure that root access in your file manager is working right. And thank you to Artheron for submitting this news to our show suggestions in our Discord for Patreons.
That is
Awesome.
very much welcome. Now, the easiest way to get around this, I have found, is to install Thunar.
Yeah. Or I use MLFM or Worker. Yeah. Any other file manager, PC Man FM.
And even though, I mean, a nice big warning label. I always say, I mean, if you know how to access something to that, just let somebody do it. Don't fight the end user. You know.
Yeah.
Good to see. Bunch of improvements, and KDE keep on being KDE. Now, I want to talk about something that I downloaded to make fun of and ended up liking.
Yay. Cool, then.
Because I thought this was, you know, it would be a good joke for the show. And I'm talking about like a desktop firewall. Maybe people of a certain age, when we think of like desktop firewalls, we're thinking, what was that popular one on Windows that everyone installed immediately in like the early 2000s?
Oh, jeez. I'm spacing on the
Zone
name
Alarm.
because Zone Alarm. Oh,
Like
yes.
Alan, it was something
Thank
along
you,
those
Katana
lines.
and Ellen. Yeah.
I thought, hey, you know what? It'd be fun to make a joke about this. And like, we finally have parity
True.
with Windows. Well, I'm talking about Saving IO and Portmaster. It's a free open source application. Puts you back in charge all over your computer's network connections. Completely free to download. I downloaded it. It's a Debian file. It only needed like 1 or 2 dependencies to get up and running on Debian 11. This thing is slick. Was all I can say about it. It installed. I launched the daemon, and it will pull up and tell you all of the applications that you're running, and you can drill down into everything, anything relating to your network activity. It is there. And I mean, it names out applications.
Amazing.
And it's like how many processes are running, how much data, what IP is this thing using. Easy to navigate, easy to block anything. I mean, this doesn't feel like programmer UI. I mean, this is slick. This thing is polished. Look, it even forces security DNS. Source code available on GitHub. Now, I did a little digging around because when I was looking at this, I'm like, something's on. I mean, you just can't give something like this away. I mean, this should be $29.95 or something like that. Their business model is completely like freemium. I mean, all the like local privacy features, completely free, going to remain so. I mean, they go into the spiel. They're funded by their VPN service. Like, hey, we want to keep things secure on Linux. And for
Safing.
you Linux user, you don't want to set up. I got a relatively expensive box back here with all that built in. You know, it's a dedicated quad-core ARM system. But for individual PCs on a network, for your home network, something like this, I actually would recommend it. And it's just really slick. I mean, the interface is so simple.
Yeah.
Even a Linus could figure it out. Not that one.
Absolutely, Vin. Absolutely. And I tested the .deb on Ubuntu Mate 20.04.3 LTS, and it ran beautifully. Even though this is actually, alpha software, it ran great. And my system was running Discord and Vivaldi at the time, but it did fine. Snapd popped up. Yes, snaps, because that's the machine I use for all my testing and for running testing snaps for the show. And it detected it. It detected Rust running and a few other things. But everything, it has per app blocking settings and rules that you can set for each app that are sweet. Instead of having to do this on the command line, it's just so convenient having it in a GUI.
It's right there. I mean, it kind of reminds me of what I've seen from like OpenSnitch and stuff like that, with that functionality built in. Like, hey, this thing's trying to do a thing. I don't know. What do you think about this? And the presentation's excellent. It is. I mean, it feels like a genuine commercial product that I would give. And I say this in the thing, I'm like, I feel like using UFW is cheating, but that's what I use for everything. Deal with it because it's so easy to use. But for a nice, slick, intuitive firewall that's just by default settings going to keep most people out of trouble, go for it. I mean, 100%. Go check it out. All the links are going to be in the show notes. GitHub page if you want to do that. They got RPMs. They got deb packages. It's available for Windows and Mac as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to put this on my essential list of tools to install with every new Linux distro.
I would.
I've already put this on the list.
Like I have
this is
zero issues. Now, I'm sure tomorrow or, by the end of the show, it'll come out that this eats computers at night when they're trying to sleep or something like that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Until that happens, go check it out. I think our theory even popped on. I was like, wow, that's slick. And I'm like, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. So good on them. Now, there was a special time. There was a special time in the mid-2000s. And like most people back in the day, I partook in this special time. I'm talking about Compiz. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It was interesting. And tell your children that you used to be mesmerized and amazed by wiggly windows and cubes spinning around on the desktop to the point where you would invite friends over. Like, come here, look at this. Wiggle. And yeah, that was the thing. I enjoyed playing around with Compiz like everybody else. I didn't use it for a long time, but I cut all the effects up to 11 that one time. Spun the cubes, jiggled a window, closed it, it caught on fire and it melted. Then I cut all that nonsense off because it's me, man. Thankfully, somebody missed it so much. They have brought back flaming windows as a GNOME extension so you can relive those dark, dark days. And burn my windows is not a thing. It's just
so awesome.
Disintegrate your apps with Nile. Let's see. There it is. Classic. Oh, there's actually a couple of different ways to go about doing this. That's your classic. Now, here's what I want to say about this. Wasn't terribly awed by that. Then I saw the Matrix one and I'm like, oh, come on. That's kind of neat. I mean, you're dead inside if you don't like that.
My favorite one. Yeah.
Right? What do you think?
Definitely. Yeah. So, I actually still use wobbly windows. Yeah, I know I'm old. I still like using wobbly windows. But what's really cool is that with just installing a GNOME extension, you can have all these different effects. And I think Ven is probably going to enjoy the fire once again. And I'm sure that makes him happy. No. But I really liked the Matrix and TV effects. That was cool, having the Matrix numbers fall down when you close the window and the TV turning off effect. This is actually really cool. And another reason, this is actually better, honestly, than doing it originally in Compiz because this takes up less memory. Mm-hmm. So it's much more memory efficient because it's just a GNOME extension. So very nice. Have fun with this. This is, it just popped up yesterday on our radar. It's in the news feeds.
Blast from the past. So if you got GNOME up and running and you like JavaScript GNOME extensions, because this is JavaScript and that's a GNOME extension, and install it, set it up. Again, I think the Matrix thing, it's just kind of cool. But I was, come on. I mean, this was like back in I'm immediately thinking all the way back into 2000s when I was running KDE, not GNOME, but why was I running KDE? Not entirely, but in no small part because it shipped with the KDE screensaver, had the Matrix one built in.
Yeah.
So you could have
that's like a go-to for me.
Oh, man. It was back in the days. Remember screensavers? Some people still run them now. You got to respect people who still run screensavers because they really hate the environment. I'm just like, man. So go check it out. It's Burn My Windows. You know what? Maybe you could be a little bit malicious with it. You could install it on somebody's PC and not tell them. But you run the risk of them liking it. So who knows about that? Now, I was thinking about Jill when I ran across this. And
yes.
I see this all the time. I'm a little bit fascinated because, hey, I'm not going to give anybody static. I'm following a guy right now who is setting up a Wi-Fi streaming cartridge for his original Game Boy. I'm like,
nice.
Well done. And you see people like, I'm going to get my Amiga online and slowly watch a BBS load. I'm like, you know what? It's dumb, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort. Maybe Amiga's too old and you want to take one of these modern x86 systems out on the internet now.
Yeah. So this is a new web browser for the disk operating system called the Microweb Web Browser. And this just makes all my vintage computer collecting much
Jill,
better.
Jill, come on, quit messing. It sounds like you're about to tell people about a web browser for DOS. That'd be silly.
Yes, it is actually. But the big news here is that Microweb is made specifically to run on older 8088 16-bit class machines in the disk operating system. So yes, so this will run on Linux through an emulator, but it's made natively for DOS. So, and to run Microweb, all you need is a 16-bit 8088 processor, like in the original IBM PC or XT, which I have in my collection, so I'm looking forward to playing with this. A CGA, EGA, VGA, or Hercules-compatible graphics card, a network interface, 640K RAM is desirable, and a mouse is optional. And for now is text only. There is no HTTPS, CSS, or JavaScript support, but that may come in the future. But that computer may not have the power to run CSS or JavaScript too well, but it might in the future. So
it was a different time when you think about it. They even make the point of, especially with the SSL, like, I mean, that would just break everything if you were trying to push that through the CPU at the time. I am a little curious. I'm looking at the command line options, and they have VGA mode, but it's limited to 640 by 480. Come on, I want that 800 by 600 crispness on my 13-inch monitor that's really like 12.2 inches, because that's how we used to measure monitors back in the day.
Yes, absolutely.
You kids with your accurate monitor sizes when you buy things.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I remember putting an 800 by 600 monitor on my XT, and it ran okay. You had to have a really good video card to get that resolution, but I did. I remember I had a Hercules card. I had a Rainbow Runner, a Sang 4000. They would make that machine much better.
Now, one of the things I'm genuinely, if you're trying to do this on a DOS machine, like legit network connection, getting the
token ring
IP.
is a thing.
I'm trying to get. Okay, I'll plug that into my token ring router. See, there's problems here. I'm assuming
you can get. Yeah, you can get aftermarket interface.
Ethernet ISA cards.
Yeah, and they actually there's a couple people that make one specifically for the 8088s that run a little better than your standard extended ISA Ethernet card.
Oh man, you know what? That still sounds so much better than. Then we're going to take this box and plug it into this box through this cable and this, and look at that BBS. Man, more power to you, but okay. This is fun. I'm going to stick with links. I'm going to stick with links.
Yeah.
But I was critically break something on my box to the point, but still have that saving thread of internet connectivity. I'm like, whew, okay, there's a way out of this. And but yeah, this is neat. I just wanted to throw it in, and it's open source.
It's really cool.
Not the neatest thing, because 2016 was kind of fun. It was kind of fun. Somebody decided to walk out and they're like, man, this Minecraft game, pretty interesting, but just making these blocks, a little boring. I'm going to build a CPU inside of it. And the internet, rightfully so, lost their mind. They're like, look at this. This thing's functioning. It was like a 1-bit CPU. And it was an amazing feat. That's so 2016, though. We can do better in 2022. In fact, we can build a functioning CPU using a modular synthesizer. And that's exactly what Catif has done. A CPU implemented in an analog modular synth. That's right, VCV rack, if you're wondering. Wrote a thread.
It's amazing.
On Twitter explaining how all of this works. We're talking straight up registers, fetch, clock, decode, you name it. And with VCV, knowing how this works, if you don't, I'm just doing this a very quick mention to show it off. If you're curious, go start reading into this, because this thing kind of works. It's setting up an actual clock for this thing using VCAs, and just the creativity that went into this, demonstrating register banks, immediate values, the ALU, replicatory adders, and just like that. This is my kind of crazy, is all this is.
Yeah.
Nothing but
That's really awesome.
a bunch of love. I can be quiet while you're talking. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. My return video had frozen. So, yeah, a little issue there. So what's really cool is explaining on Twitter, Kate, the creator, said, remember the lines here are polyphonic audio. I'm using them to carry 8 bits each. Multi-channel attenuverters make for a handy way to set a byte. So if you're in the audio world and if you've ever played with a modular synthesizer like I have back in the 80s, this is, it really is amazing that she created a CPU with this technology. It's awesome.
It's, man, repurposing things, just that little spark of information. And of course, when you ask someone, it's like, why did you do this? Goes cool. And done. Valid answer.
Yeah.
Keep on being you. Now, if you want to help us keep on being us, you can do that by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. That's how we finance this crazy little experiment that we do where we just show up and honestly say what we want. And all the other stuff like interfacing Linux. I do a bunch of guides and stuff like that. We got a gaming show that we've been doing for almost 10 years now. Older than Steam on Linux, so you know we're the old guard. We're like, and we're grumpy. Not really. We have a good time. We appreciate Linux in all of its forms and fashions, and a couple of live streams during the week. But it's a new year. We got a gang of new people. We got to think this week, Joe.
We sure do. So Turnover is a new Death Note. Thank you so much, Turnover.
Death Note.
We have
a Death Note. We need to explain. We got like little tiers, man. If you got like a buck or something like that. We got Cherlings, Death Notes, Sea Monsters, and everything's in a little bonus. So we pretty much just give everything. I've had more than one person like, you give way too much away for free. And I'm like, I know I do, but that's kind of the point, man. Get access to our Discord, along with we do 4 extra hours of content a month, pre-super shows. And if you're wondering about what's going on, like movie reviews, behind the scenes stuff, that's all there in podcast and video format. But Death Notes get access to our show notes. Each and every
our
week
show notes.
as we're typing them. You get to creep, you get to participate, be like, excuse me, I got somebody who can chime in on that. And that usually makes its way to the show. Thank you, Turnover. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's always nice, Turnover, to get suggestions for our news stories.
Are you telling me to try harder?
Aw, yeah. Right. So we have also a new patron, JPX. And we have M. Axius, who's a new patron, and Mir did a Twitch resub, and Massive Oni did a Twitch resub. Woof, we got a lot. And we still have Foxy to thank.
What did one Michael inflict upon you?
Oh, so Foxy sent me the game Another World, the 20th anniversary edition on Steam, and it is one of my favorites. I used to play on my Amiga and in DOS. So that's it. It's actually one of my favorite games, Foxy, one of my favorite classic games.
I watched a little a mini doc, and I went down a little mini rabbit hole on that, on how that was utilizing the Blitter chip in the Amiga. A very fascinating game for its time. One person job too.
Yeah. I have run the original under Lutris using the Amiga port, and that runs beautifully as well, thanks to our very own Strider, Matthew, creator of Lutris.
Is that it? What did...
Yeah, he got... Didn't Foxy give you a game too, Ven?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think he gifted us all games for Christmas.
I'm a wash with... I got a bunch of games. I gave a bunch of games away. Santa Ven struck after holidays was over. I kind of went like, you get this game, you get this game, you get this game. So thanks for everybody just sharing and all this fun stuff, letting us do what we do. We hope you enjoy it. Stick around for your names and the credits. We got Amazon wish list. We just got a whole support thing if it's your jam. If not, that's cool too. Just come say hi. And we got a bunch of stuff planned for 2021. One thing we don't have planned is a slice of pie image because I just realized I didn't load it, Joe.
Oh, that's okay, Vin.
We'll have to.
We've had so many. Maybe we could talk about the Christmas one that looked like it had Skittles on it.
Looks almost as diseased as this pie case, but we're going to give this a quick mention before we get out of here because we always like to include something Raspberry Pi related at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Setting up a Raspberry Pi as your home Let's quit trying to make the metaverse thing a real. I remember VRML.
Yeah,
Go away.
I know.
Metaverse server for your
Same here.
VR headset. Well, step one, you're going to need a man. That is green. That thing is allergic to black lights.
Yeah. It's
Raspberry Pi. Okay, here's another thing.
very
Raspberry
iridescent.
Pi 4B, the 8 gigs. Very rare these days trying to get hold of one. About the only place you can find them is inside of a kit. But this is how to go through an entire development setup for VR with a Raspberry Pi, like setting up the server and all this. This is completely outside of my wheelhouse, but I wanted to give it a mention because I know somewhere there used to be some pictures. Here we go. This will walk you through the entire thing, including using
very good instructions.
Arctis, Debian. I didn't know about Arctis. I have to go Risco Pi. Man, I don't. But we're gonna go. I guess Ubuntu. Ubuntu's really heavy on the Pi, but yeah, you can walk through all of this, and apparently there's an entire stack you'd need for the Raspberry Pi Metaverse server. Lamp stack.
A lamp stack. Yeah.
Internet Pi 4B. This is going to get to the good part. Oh man, this does go all the way into it. Come on, picture, you do the thing.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, we want to see the pictures in the metaverse.
This is hey, there's your setting up UFW, sudo apt install, XRP. Okay, here we go. Things you will now have to configure a laptop. You'll need a VR headset, router, registered domain name. Okay, I got to really read into this because vrmetaserver.org, advanced DNS table, address of gateway, configuring a patch. So what do you do with this though? This is like the end game because I am 100% like look at something that's like that's neat, but I never stop to think. So what's the point? Because I'm me. I'm like I don't care about the point.
Well,
it's all the adventure.
It's like you can make a VR chat is very popular right now, and you can make your own VR chat universe with it, where you bring in a group of friends and you can all interact with each other in the 3D world or the metaverse. And yeah, then it does bring back memories of Vermal or VRML back in the day. But this is Vermal, but in the modern day, but using a VR headset, which is really cool. And yeah, so you can talk to each other, interact with each other. You know, you can they'll probably have avatars you can make just like you do in VR chat. I mean, you can make your own avatar for your VR presence.
That's wild.
So I just look at it as the new age of chat rooms, really, because that's what it is.
It's like communicating with a bunch of extra steps thrown in.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's a good use of your VR headset when you're not playing the few games that are available for it. So.
Lots going to have to happen. I mean, I'm always interested in to see what comes of it in its current state. I mean, to me, I'm more impressed that you can set up something like this on a Raspberry Pi instead of like a stack of SGI boxes.
Yeah, it is amazing, actually, really amazing. That the new Raspberry Pi is also powerful enough to run this and to run the 3D models required and
that's
everything.
There. Yeah, and link in the show notes. Yeah. If anybody wants to tango with this or you're working on something like this or anything remotely related, send us a note. Head over to Linux Gamecast. We got a contact page. Smash that, or you can just leave something. Hit me up on Twitter or on Patreon, any place that I am, and let me know. I'd be glad to see it. We'll probably even get you on the show or something like that. But we're running long, Jill, because you know what I got to do?
Okay.
I got to run this entire show through an analog computer, man.
Oh, it's going to take a while.
I got to do it in real
time.
time.
But it should sound warm. It should sound warm in the end. Right?
If it sounds warm, I did it wrong.
Yeah.
Not joking. Yes, Aphex would consider that a defective product if it This is why people send them back, because people are like, oh, I'm going to add some mojo to it. It's like, no, the whole point is not to do that at all. It's just to make everything better. But we hope you have a great rest of your week. You make everything better. And I'll be back. Jordan will be back tomorrow with Cybertruck 2017 or whatever he's playing. And he seems to be having a good time in that. I try to pop in if I get a chance. And Friday, 7:30, head over to Twitch, smash that schedule button, fam. And that's where I'm going to be with everybody. And we're going to be doing like a little points race thing and Track Mania 2 Stadium. More info on that in our Discord in the announcements tab.
Yay.
Hop in there if you don't. I mean, if you're a patron or if you're a Twitch sub, link to your account, hop in. That's where we're at the other 6 days a week. You can hang out with 100 or so of us, just kind of chilling out. That's where all the cool people ended up being.
Yeah.
Until then, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Love you. Oh, thank you for joining us in the live stream.
Lawnmower Pie, that's what we need. Sentient lawnmower.
Oh, and the level code when? Welcome. Gameotron, Steve Husband's in there. My husband, of course, Artherin, and Fox Dog.
I don't know.
Mirror's
Steve
in there.
Husband can be taken away. It's like, oh, so you're Steve's husband?
Yeah, Mr. Alert. For those of you that no, Steve Husband. Well, for those of you that listen to LWW, you know that Steve Husband is actually my husband. That's why he's named Steve Husband in chat. Because I got him to come into the Linux Gamecast chat. It was then IRC many years ago.
And Joel was like, people need to know. I don't want anyone thinking anything other than.
Yes.
All right, beautiful people. Thanks for showing up. And again, we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye. Woohoo. Yeah, we did go long, Vin. We had stories we even didn't get through because we were going long.
So we get all of that together. Oh, man. Hey, look, one of my old routers from the early 2000s is following us.
Oh, cool. Let's see.
That's what I used to, like, access points, man. We all go through that phase of, like, FBI surveillance, man, like number 6. To mess with the neighbors.
Hi, Nubbin.
What's going on?
Do.
Nubbin.
Congratulations on your race times. They're getting better and better, and you're doing really good with that game. Yeah.
Practice and coming back to it. You can immediately tell the type of people that you can and cannot work with by watching them trying to accomplish a goal. Because you can see there they go, they're giving up, they're out. Versus like, no, I'm going to figure this out. And it's therapeutic in a way of, you think about taxing your cognitive ability to like think ahead, plan ahead, plus your reflexes. This gets very interesting once you start tapping into your 40s. Because you are fully capable of knowing what you need to do, but you don't actively, you're not a kid anymore, man. You don't put 8 hours in a day playing the video games, and you try to get that refined, and you can still do it. You can. And I think gaming as a whole, especially Jill's generation, 100% my generation, we are going to, we are people that just grew up with gaming. There's no social stigma of like, you play video games? Like, of course I do. You don't, weirdo? And keeping that interactivity, the whole thing, like, we're not sitting around, we don't turn, our generation's not going to turn into like people, zombies that sitting in front of a TV doing nothing, not challenging themselves. Yeah.
Well, the fact is, it was our generation who created the games in the first place. Starting with the 70s and the with Pong and before that on Unix systems and
thanks, boomers.
So but yeah, so there's going to be a lot of old gamers around for a long time.
We're going to be thinking about that.
Because we've been doing it.
And you're young, and you're like, man, it's going to be we're talking about nursing homes. If you're listening, you better be setting up LAN parties. Gaming night.
Yeah. Absolutely.
D&D is going to be a thing. This is all going to be a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have this, I want that game, but don't have the 4 hours a day it needs. What are you talking about?
Oh.
I'm practicing Trackmania like a fiend. I make myself 30 minutes a day. That's what I do. I will come in and I will practice on the tracks because the server's up 24/7. When I have 30 minutes, I might not do 30 minutes at one time. It might be 12 minutes, then a little bit later in the afternoon. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go around. I'm not going to be great at it, but I'm going for middle of the pack, and I think that's achievable.
Well, you know, it is. Once you learn the track, then it becomes easier and you can become faster, going around the corners. And that's the kind of the trick. I've gotten better of distance.
Distance is a whole different. Trackmania at its core is a physics experiment.
It is.
You have to learn once you're familiar with, I'd suggest if you're going to pick it up, I think it's like $4 right now. This is a very inexpensive game for the amount of fun that you could extract from it. And it's not necessarily a racing game. I mean, that's kind of the point, but it is a thinking experiment once you understand how the world's physics work and what you can and cannot get away with and going through that curve. And gravity is kind of optional sometimes. So, but it's just something to challenge yourself. And if you're looking for something to do every Friday, because the maps change each and every week, I'm going to be picking. That's what we do on Tuesdays, is pick out some of the maps. We had 24 yesterday, and I'm going to take the ones that we like the most out of those 12, and have that ready for Friday. So, going for just above Strider was yeah, exactly, right? And now that the server's set up where it logs times, we can play asymmetrically. We don't all have to be together. You can come in and you can see whose time was best on what track and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try to get to this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the game. There was another racing game then we used to play in the after show that had some similar physics. That was, going around tunnels and up vertical planes and whatnot. There was another one we played. I'm launching Steam so I can check which game it was.
We played Super Tux Kart Saturday.
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorites. I was bummed I couldn't play Saturday.
We popped in, we played, and apparently the one person who does nothing but sit around and wait for people to play Super Tux Kart online decided to join us.
Yeah.
Which was fine. We had no problem with that. I'm like, hey, more the merrier, whatever, because I don't like setting up password. By the way, there's a password on our Trackmania server. But you can spectate, though, if you want. If you're looking for the password, it's in the announcement segment. But he jumped in, and of course, like, yeah, I'm like the number 2 player, and he was just doing laps around. So we're like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. Because we're just playing to play to have fun. But then he started talking smack that he was winning. Like, really?
Oh.
Really? We play, yeah. I'm going to speak for, I think, everybody that was playing that night. It was like 8 or 9 of us. We play Super Tux Kart once, possibly twice a year. So, yeah, you're not doing victory laps, man. It was a smack talking. So he turned a perfectly good opportunity. And it's like, you know what? Let's start a new server with the password. Womp womp. Distance.
Womp womp.
Yeah, we played Distance a couple of times. Distance is a fun game.
Distance is one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's got a... Distance is the soundtrack that has a car game attached to it. They finally fleshed out the story mode. It's still incredibly boring, but...
yeah, they did. I always play the user maps. Those are my favorite part of Distance. Just bring in a bunch of maps. I've made my own map for it years ago, and I finally got through it. I made a really hard one, so I'm like, why did I make this hard on myself? But I got through it.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah. I've never played with a map editor in Distance. I know it's a thing.
It's great. Actually, it's really, really good, and it's just getting better and better.
All right.
Yeah, there was another game we used to play where you stick to the walls.
It was a racing game?
Yeah, it was a racing game, and we used to play it and we stopped playing it because it had some issues. Forgetting name. It's a race.
You have my interest. Like, okay.
Yeah.
See, I have a horrible memory, and I'm going to speak for myself, Jordan, and Pedro, because like by the time we get to the after, we've just done 3 hours of show, so our brain's on autopilot. Like whatever happens after that kind of just happens. So
Yeah.
Very cute.
It has a G in it. I just remember it has a G. It has a G in it. Why am I spacing on this game? Because I have it in my library, but you know, when you have so many, almost 1,000 games in your library, it's hard to find things sometimes.
Was it that one time we played Grip?
Thank you, Foxy. Grip.
That must have made
we played that.
That made an
a few
impact on you.
times.
We played that once.
No, we played it a couple times. We actually did, because I have some time in it. I think I have like 2 hours in it. Grip, huh, Foxy? That was it. that game. You remember it would...
Yeah, we played it.
We tried it several times.
I bought a bunch of copies for everyone, and I played it once on a Friday with everyone, and we played it an after show one time with everybody.
Yeah. And I remember playing it twice, but I think...
Garfield Kurt?
Yeah.
I don't know if, see, who was it? Like Indie Gala or one of the indie sites that sells the games. Like, hey, get a free copy of Garfield Kart. I'm like, you know what? That might be for a good joke. And I went and I logged into my account. Like, it's a download. I'm like, no. It wasn't a Steam key. Like, the only way I'm touching Garfield Kart's with a Steam key. So I just clicked the play button.
Grip Combat Racing, and I've played 2.3 hours with Linux Gamecast. So, because LGC is the only one I've played this with.
It is free. You just gotta like download it, like a very primitive, like in the olden days, where you had a games folder.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. Yeah.
But Grip was actually fun. The last time we played it, it was much improved on the performance. But I remember we all had issues. We had to use a different version of Proton to get it to work, and
it works pretty decently, depending on. I mean, it's Unreal Engine 4. It's not too bad of a game.
Yeah.
It's
Hi, Cheese Bacon. Hi, Cheesy. Good to see you. Yay, Cheese Bacon. He's over at System 76.
All right.
Bringing us some wonderful technology.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would like to sit here and say, yes, we spend a lot of time planning on what we're going to play in the after shows on Saturdays. And man, we're doing good if we remember to even think about it in the pre-super shows. And here's what we don't. Usually I just get, what we end up playing is whatever Jordan or Pedro comes up with.
Yeah.
I'm checking.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheese Bacon. Linux first company.
Oh, you mean like Microsoft?
Well, yeah. That is where they make most of their money.
I mean, Jill, come on. I mean, we got to talk about our friends at Microsoft. Clearly, Linux first company.
Microsoft hearts Linux. Mm-hmm. So true, Arthur.
Who was it? I think it was Scott. Scott's like, where did you get that picture? I've searched the internet. I can't. It's like, I made it in GIMP. Man, do you want a copy? Jeez. So, what do we got going on the rest of this week? Hopefully my audio interface that I got at a criminally low price, that is made in the last 2 years, and it's USB. I'm being terribly mysterious about this. Joe could find out what it is by looking in our show docs, because I've already created a show doc for it. It's somewhere outside of my house. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. UPS is delivering it, not FedEx. FedEx I worry about. You want to be out front to catch the package with FedEx, because they will yeet it right in your general direction. And Amazon will stealthily attempt to hide it in the place where you will not see it and trip over it and fall down your flight of stairs. It's nothing like brick breaking your fall. So, is it a sin? No, it's a sin to honestly care what type of operating system another person is running. That's a cardinal sin. Like, if you waste any of your mind's real estate thinking about that, don't.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let it go. Katana, you got the right idea. It's your computer. You're on whatever you want. Like, hey, man, how are you doing? Yeah, you seem like an awesome person. What operating system do you run? I'm like, bye. It's like, that's why people don't invite you to parties. So, yeah, just run whatever you want. I mean, you got like operating system enthusiasts, then you got operating system zealots. You know, we've all run into the Mac user, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're trash. Windows PCs can't do anything. And it's been, you know, and once you put yourself in a position like that, then you end up like where Mac has, up until very, very recently, abandoned their pro market. Like, oops.
Oh, welcome, QKai76. I guess you're one of the System 76 workers. Yay.
Workers. You make it sound like it,
well.
Oh yes, worker. yes.
No, I don't mean it that way. One of their wonderful employees that works with Emma and the gang, and our very own Linux Guru and Cheese Bacon.
I don't know why you try to run anything on an antique SGI. I mean, outside of making a YouTube video. Like, you got to be in the depths of boredom. Like, I respect it. I do, but I'm like, maybe do something, I don't know, slightly more productive or cool. Like I was telling Jill, man, I think it'd be fun to see if I can hack my Steam Deck and get Windows running on it so I can do a video. I want to do a video. Is Windows ready for a Linux user?
I love that idea. I think you should do it, Ben.
Because I have no idea, man. Like outside of that Windows tablet I bought a couple of years ago that was running Windows 8.
Yeah, cheesy Windows 3.1 on a Steam Deck. That'd
Windows
be great.
3.11 I could navigate because last time I had to professionally deal with Windows was NT4, and I will stand by Windows NT4 because that was running my PCB, my Eagle software I was using for designing boards. That thing stayed on just all the time. I never cut that thing off. It was always on. And I never had a problem with NT4. And this is not a humble brag. I've just never been in a position I wouldn't willingly inflict Windows upon myself. I mean, I've not achieved that level of self-hatred yet.
True.
Adrian,
So I was thinking of other esoteric OSs you could be running. You could be running Elks on an 8088. You can be running Minix. But do you want to be, if you want to be, the question is, do you want to be productive or not? No, and I'm teasing because Minix, you can run Vim and so. Hell, Elks OS when? Yes. Yeah, so the embedded Linux system, Elks is the short name for it's Linux-like for the 16-bit 8088. And I've looked into it because I installed it on one of my 8088 machines.
Wouldn't it be a far more interesting thing if you didn't look into it and you installed it?
Yeah, because then I wouldn't know what the heck I was doing.
See, now that's the spirit. We'll get you up to speed on running Windows. No, man.
Yeah, OS2 warp.
My NT4 was incredibly secure because it was air-gapped. It wasn't connected to the internet.
It wasn't connected.
That's, then, you know, it's always curious. I'll see the retro YouTubers. They like Windows XP. And it's very difficult to think of like the Tonka version of Windows being classic. And just how ugly that thing was, man. With the bright green button and the blue. Like,
Yeah.
It genuinely looked like a color scheme that I designed as a joke.
Yeah. I preferred NT4, but I had to use it, to do animation because I had to have the NT kernel to run the 3D Studios and the Maya back when Maya was ported to Windows. But I was using Alias on Linux at the time, and yeah.
If you want to get regaled, all the OS2 you can handle, just wind up Iculus, Ryan C. Just mention OS2 to him. That boy loves his OS2.
Yeah, cheesy, those dumb dongles, yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Everybody hates dongles.
Yeah.
Right up until your online activation messes up, and you got to call support, and they treat you like a criminal, and they don't do anything to help you out.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Black Magic. Something is to be said for hardware dongles.
No, I still, the first time I had one was 3D Studio for DOS, Release 3 for DOS, and in the early 90s. And, well, I learned how to use the software without it, but but I was a student needing to use the software, and back in those days, you could not get, a trial version of the software. You had to spend the thousands of dollars it was to get it, and to get the manuals with it, you had to spend that money. We didn't have books in the stores that you could learn how to use it.
You didn't have books in stores? What did you have? Tablets? Stone?
Well, we didn't have the books for 3D. You couldn't buy extra books for the software because you had to pay for the software to get the books. And that was a thing. So I learned 3D Studio the hard way and became an expert at it, and ended up doing a lot of my first animations for TV and the movies with it. And used it for a long time, even though 3D Studio Max was around, because it was better at doing Boolean operations, and a lot of things were just a lot more stable with 3D Studio for DOS.
Well, the best way to learn a piece of software is to attack it blindly.
Yeah. You learn it without the manual, and then you learn. What's awesome about doing that is then you learn, even though you, in some ways, it's the harder way of learning it. You learn how to do techniques that no one else knows because they're reading the books, and the books don't cover a lot of those tricks you learn.
But fortunately, we live in the future where none of that is applicable. If you need to know how to do something, you ask the magic internet box. It's probably going to give you a poorly done YouTube video without timestamps. This is why I try to do slightly better than poorly done videos with timestamps. Because every guide I make it from the guide of me getting angry trying to find something in a YouTube video. I don't want to do that to anyone.
Yeah, I'm talking about back in the day before we had the World Wide Web and that, search up. I was using the BBS systems, and I was the one that everyone came to learn about 3D Studio because no one, a lot of people didn't know how to use it. And
oh man, TrueSpace was a monster.
Yeah, Caligari TrueSpace. It was a lot more limited than 3D Studio, but it was still cool. Yeah.
I played around with the original when Blender was first. It's Blender's birthday, by the way.
I know, they're 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah.
I remember I cracked that open. I was playing with it. Like, there's even back then, this is when I had the monsterly bad, just horrible user interface. And I was like, man. But I bought that book, which I do not have because I'm sure that's a collectible now. It was like a spiral bound how to use Blender. Because even in 2000, documentation was sparse, but somebody had made a book for it.
That way you could buy that at Borders. I have a copy of that. Yeah, I actually, 20 years, 19, I think actually 20 years ago, one of my students had came to me and said, do you know about the software named Blender? And I go, oh, yes, absolutely. And he asked if he could use it instead of using 3D Studio Max or Maya. And I said, of course, I know Blender. And I was very happy he was using it. So that was a thing. Yeah, the SGI IRIX. Yeah. Yeah, it was 20 years since it was open source. Yeah, because I remember using it. Oh, yeah, Foxy. I remember using it on SGI. Oh, my gosh. That's true.
And
yeah,
now
Cheesy
Blender
and
is
Foxdog. Yeah, worked on one of the early versions of Blender.
Blender. Yeah. I do everything in my power not to have to use Blender, but I think it's 1994.
Yeah.
25 years old.
So that's when it... Yeah. Why did everyone say 20? No, it's 25.
Because everyone just agrees with each other instead of going to the Google box and asking it questions. That's why I'm me. 25th birthday.
Yeah. So that's when it was open sourced. And... Yeah,
during the Christmas holidays in 1993, Todd Rosendahl started working on the Blender software based on the original designs he made. In the course of 1993, on January 2nd, 1994, the first Blender version was running, with a subdivision-based windowing system working.
Mm-hmm.
There it is. Look at that.
Oh, there's a young
nice
Ton.
House. Birthplace of Blender, 1992 through 1997. Interesting. Ton?
Yeah, so... Yeah, Ton Rosendahl.
Pretty interesting. So, and yeah, like Blender's probably the best... not the best, one of the best, let's always say that, open source success stories of the demonstrating how something can go to that to something that is completely commercially viable.
Mm-hmm.
And
now it's taking the industry by storm, and we love it.
It's used in that aspect. So I love seeing, I really wish we had the equivalent of Blender in the NLE space for video editing, but maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah, it has really improved. The editor has really improved. It doesn't look so foreign anymore. It looks more like other editors now.
I mean, it's not bad, but every time somebody reminds me, like, oh yes, you can do editing in Blender, I'm like, you can watch movies in Vim if you want to, but...
Yeah, so why does it say the 20th when it's the... see, Blender even says 20th and it's the 25th. Oh, that's what was confusing me. I was like, what?
Yeah, this is from Blender's YouTube.
Yeah. But yeah, Ben, while you were gone, I was telling everyone how the first student I had who wanted to use Blender was just about 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he asked if he could use Blender because, I was teaching 3D Studio Max and Maya at the time.
I think 20 years to like me and you, because that's about the time when we were first really made aware of Blender. And it was to the point of like, hey, that's something my mom will want to play around with and start using a little bit.
Yeah. So what was really cool was, that student was... I remember he was a little nervous asking me, could I use Blender for my animation? And I said, absolutely yes. And could you please use it on Linux? That was when I was introducing my students to Linux. And he goes, oh, absolutely, Teacher Jill, whatever you want, just so I could use Blender. So I had some Maya machines that were running Linux. So I had him use some of our Linux machines to run Blender, and he did a great job with it. He created some really nice animations, and he knew at that time that there were a lot of features that weren't in Blender that were in the other, of course, big proprietary packages. But I said it's coming. This project is going to get better and better, and each year we're going to have more and more industry standard animation in it and tools.
It's interesting to see how it's
now
come
it's
through,
here.
man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I talked about that with my student 20 years ago. So I'm so happy it has happened. So.
Yes, what do I use? Yeah, you do use DaVinci Resolve. I've been using Resolve for a couple of years now. They got my $300, which I was grateful to pay. I was grateful to pay. Up until that.
One time, $300. That's all.
For the 7-8 years before that, I'd used OpenShot and used Kdenlive, Live, and it just got to the point where I needed something with some power behind it, and I finally messed around with Resolve in like 10 minutes of playing around with Resolve, and I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to do this. No one wants to relearn the nonlinear editor, but 10 minutes playing with it, I'm like, yes, this is going to save me. I can't even calculate how much time.
Too much time
in production. Yeah. And I played with it for about a month with a free version. I'm like, yeah, all right, here's the money. Give it to him.
Oh, and Cheese Bacon. I use DaVinci Resolve Fusion as my alternative to Adobe After Effects. It's definitely there. It's the full package. There's DaVinci does come with a kind of a starter package of Fusion, but you want the full package of Fusion, and you can download that and play with it.
Fusion's not bad. The Fusion that's packed in with DaVinci Resolve, I think you're underselling it, calling it a starter package. I would say it's about 98% of what Fusion ships with by looking at the descriptions from Blackmagic themselves.
Okay, I don't use the one that comes with the base package because it wasn't sophisticated enough for what I used After Effects for. So, but the standalone one had the features I needed.
The only thing I will say, I mean, DaVinci's got some issues on Linux. Let's see how many people. My install guide is currently sitting at 25,000 views. So I've helped a few people get it up and running on Debian-based systems, but there's it only supports ALSA for audio. It supports ALSA. It also supports your Blackmagic encoder if you have that for like an Intensity Pro 4K, which I have one in this box next to another one, but that could be a problem because there's about 7 people on the face of this earth I trust to Tango directly with the ALSA stack. None of them work at Blackmagic, so it's not the perfect solution. I really wish they would add support for jack or Pipewire, either of those. And they need to add support for VST2, VST3 in Linux, because that would save me just incalculable amounts of time, and it would make Fairlight usable, which is the audio package, which is kind of just not really usable. Plus, I'm also the person who's like, man, don't edit your audio in your video editor. Come on. This over here is where you edit your audio on your audio software in your DAW. But if they get that fixed, if they add jack support is another big thing, because that'll give you MIDI support. There's no MIDI support. True. The reason I bring that up is the only control surface that works with Fairlight, these faders and all the automation system that I have tied into this software require MIDI support. And under Linux, you have to buy their silly $1,000, just not very good control surface that is like laughable for the price.
Nice. Oh, and cheesy, Fusion Studio 17 is $295. I knew it was just under $300.
That's a credible price too.
That's a great price. And again, that's it does everything that After Effects does. It really does.
The one thing we need to see happen is, and I'll keep bringing this up, we need hardware accelerated plugins and timelines and open source nonlinear video editors. And they need a way to leverage compute for rendering. And I'm talking about NVIDIA Encode. I'm talking about leveraging compute itself, like Resolve does. That's what changed my mind, because I record DNX HD 440 for my video, which is high bitrate. It's lossless. It's an intermediate codec, but I record that directly with OBS. Now I have, like this show, let's just say I have an hour of 1080p 60 footage to render that out. If I was going to do that in OpenShot, if I was going to do that QD in Live, even using like Nvidia Encode or something like that, that's still going to take, 45 minutes. Resolve, I can do that same 1080p. I'm going to have it done, being generous, 12 minutes. I mean, it's day and night. Plus, I got my coloring and everything else is built in there. It's an incredibly good piece of software, despite what Blackmagic has done to it. It's still very powerful. It's got its problems like everything else, and it's a dedicated piece of software. You got to read the manual. You're not going to install it on your Intel laptop. It's just not going to work. Sorry. Do you really need 32 gigs of RAM to use it? Not necessarily, but if you're going to be editing anything over 1080p and you're going to be doing, a bunch of nodes with effects, color grading, and all that stuff, I'll tell you one thing you're going to need. You're going to need more than 6 gigs of VRAM on your video card. Ask me how I know, says the guy with the 2066 gig. OpenCL. Yeah, OpenCL is fortunately being forgotten about as hard as possible, because that was just a poorly documented. No one wanted to tinker with it.
Yeah, no one wanted to code that. It was a nightmare.
The only reason it's even remotely alive is because of Apple and their insistence never to use Nvidia anything, which is fine. Maybe Apple will switch to Intel. Ooh. That'd be when I say Intel, I'm talking about on the CPU side, but they won't, because the next big tower Mac Pros are going to be ARM based. And we're all going to sit around and be jelly about the new Mac Pro with 96 cores. That's going to run circles around everything that we have in the x86 ecosystem. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. Well, DaVinci works on on their new machines, so that's the important thing.
Blackmagic has been really good with that.
Yeah, they sure have.
Again,
and at CES, that's great. They're working with Intel.
I mean, Blackmagic, they've made a big play, and it's come a long ways. I remember watching people in the Blackmagic forums celebrate, doing victory laps, shaking with joy when they reduced the price of DaVinci Resolve to $1,000. When they did that first big price cut, and it was only $1,000, people were ecstatic. And to think it's $300 now, or the free version works just fine for 99% of the stuff you're going to do. But you got to understand, when we're talking about limitations, it doesn't support AAC under Linux for your audio. So if you're pulling audio that's been recorded off of like a consumer camera, your audio is probably going to be AAC. It's record lossy. And you're going to have to convert that. You're going to have to put it in FLAC or WAV or something like that to bring it into Resolve. But, I mean, small things like that I can deal with. So, speaking of audio, need to take our show, Jill, and run it through
we're having
our
too much fun.
1986 analog computer to make it all nice.
That's so
pretty.
cool.
Because I can, kids. Because it can. It'll be fun. I'll probably
cheesy.
do a video about it.
No problem. That was really fun, and I think you'll really love DaVinci Fusion.
Oh,
it's what
seriously?
I've been teaching my students for motion graphics now.
If you want to wind the two of us up, that's the easiest way to do it. To talk about 3D, audio, video production, somebody's going to start
all that
talking.
Stuff.
Yeah. I spent the last 10 years trying to help people do AV production under Linux, and
yeah.
we're seeing, I'm doing what I can, man. I'm doing what I can. So,
yay!
Well, everyone, that's going to do it for the show. Thanks for hanging out. And this will be up in podcast format sometime before 8, unless YouTube does the YouTube thing that it did to me Saturday.
Oh. Yeah, I noticed that. It was really slow.
It was late. It was late. It was like 8:30.
It was like 6.
Well, your time.
Well, Pacific, yeah.
Yeah. And YouTube did the thing to where I get everything uploaded. An hour of video, it's like 10 gigs. And I upload that, which still takes a minute because my upload's like 45 megabits, which is criminal for what I pay. And that gets uploading. It normally takes maybe 30 minutes for it to like cycle through. Then it starts processing the HD versions. Every now and then, it will hang at 95%. And it's like, this is taking longer than it normally does. And that's what I posted on YouTube, because this just, it's always a bad time, because that's code. That's code. That's exactly what it is. Let me see if I can show you. This is how YouTube lets you know the video will finish processing sometime between 20 seconds from taking that picture or Tuesday. That, when you see that, all bets are off, kids. And here's what I did. Here's another problem. If you try to upload the exact same thing again, YouTube is like, no, you got a duplicate, man. And I want to fight that. So I re-rendered the video. What did I do? I like chopped off a nanosecond off of the end, like half a second, just so it would have a different bites. So YouTube like, oh, it's a completely different video. Re-rendered that. So that's another 12, 14 minutes. Uploaded it, which took like another hour. It processed the second one and finished before that one did.
Wow. Didn't like that end, I guess.
Yeah, it just glitches sometimes, and it wouldn't be an issue whatsoever if the file sizes were smaller. But it's 10 gigs for an hour, which is impressive considering you're taking like 3.5, 400 gigabytes of audio and video and smashing it down to that, where it's still good. So yeah, there you go, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your week. It's only halfway through. But Friday is within sight. And if you want to come blow some steam off with us, we will be around for our Trackmania Get Good Grandpa series. 1st of 2022, Friday at 7:30. Everyone's welcome to come and test your skill. Yeah. And by test your skill, we want to see if you can make it from one end of the map to the other with the fewest amount of times flying off the track and or into the air. Non-intentionally. It's fun to do it intentionally, though. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Love you. And again, Happy New Year. And I'll see you next Wednesday. Yay! I keep waiting to hear the music.